There's a thing that I often find myself relating to people, but also relating to inside myself, which says, because we think it's so, doesn't make it so, but it does incline us to see it so. And while I was in my meditation, it just came to me that because we know it's so, makes it so, even if we don't believe it so. So, we're all here in this world, and we are basically all walking around in amnesia. And we're all Jason Bourne. We've all forgotten what's really going on, who we really are. And the amazing thing that happens is that when any of us comes awake to who we really are, one of the most overwhelming truths that happens is that we realize that who we awaken to is who we've always been, and that what we know in that moment we've always known. So when we really come awake, we know. And in that knowing, we also know that we've always known. So that there is a truth of us that is the real us that always knows. And so when we look for guidance, what we're really thinking of is, I am this limited person I pretend to be, that I play the game of, or the story of being, who doesn't know, who's lost and is seeking and struggling and suffering. And my prayer to God is really a prayer to my own being. Because when we get into our own being, we get into God. And then in that place, everyone is God. And so then everybody knows. But in the world of the flesh, in the world of time and space, we pretend that we don't. And so we long for the guidance, and we go to counselors, and we go to psychics, and we go to seers, and we go to Ouija boards and astrologers, and anything and everything. Facebook friends, we reach out. And see, that the truth is, there's no lack of guidance. There's just really a lack of clear guidance, or there's a lack of our ability to know which is the guidance to follow. Just within our own makeup, we have the guidance that comes from our lower nature, our lower self, guidance that comes from, we could call it a higher self. We have guidance from our personality, guidance from our ego, guidance from the conditioned places inside of us in our personality, from mom and dad, from the collective society. We have Madison Avenue's guidance. We have any group, we have any sense of identification with, we have that guidance. So we're awash in guidance. We're literally drowning in so many different forms of guidance. And yet all these guidances leave us often paralyzed, because by experience we follow the different guidances, and we found that many times it didn't work out anything close to what we hoped it would work out to. But there is this guidance that is ever present for us. And if there's a guidance that's ever present for us, there's a guide that's ever present for us, and that guide is God. Now that guide could be referenceable by us, meaning conditioned by us, because of how we relate to that guide. So we might say, well, I'm getting my guidance from Jesus. I'm getting my guidance from Buddha. I'm getting my guidance from my guru. I'm getting my guidance from the ascended masters. I'm getting my guidance from the mystical traveler. I'm getting my guidance from Gaia. I'm getting my guidance from my ancestors. So there's no end to what we might be getting guidance from, but in the end, it doesn't really matter where you get it. The real thing that matters is it working, and is that guidance on purpose to your highest good, and on purpose to your highest growth, and on purpose to your greatest fulfillment, whatever you decide your greatest fulfillment is. Now, that's part of the problem, because once we come into this world and we enter into the dimension of time and space, and in the pretense of this individual experience, we're going to categorize the guidance that works for us very much in terms of what seems to fulfill our desires, our plans, our goals, the storybook ending that we all have for ourselves, which is, in my case, I win, I get the girl, I get the money, I get the cheers. And I ride off into the sunset happily ever after to a standing ovation. If we look at it like that, we go, so that will then color the way I look at guidance. Because if the guidance seems to be supporting that, I'll go, yeah, that's good guidance. But, however, once we enter into the flesh and this world of time and space, there is a consciousness within this conditioned reality that has an agenda, which is to keep us locked into this story, into the tale we're telling ourselves and we're living out here about our individual existence. And so it really works very hard to promote us to get that kind of guidance that tells us we're going in the right direction to get the fulfillment of all that we want. And yet, its goal for us is different than God's goal for us, and ultimately is different than our true goal for ourselves. But as soon as we come into this identification of ourself as this being that lives in time and space, we start to create goals for this being, this separate consciousness. And many times, those things that seem to be fulfilling us on that level are actually contrary to our soul's purpose. Why are we here as a soul? To learn and to grow. What is learning and growing for the soul? Learning to bring forward in every way and every expression we can, loving as a response to all the opportunities, challenges, conflicts, conditions of this experience. If God is love and the soul is an individuated extension of God into God's creation, which is my experience of this, then the triumph of the soul is being able to persist in loving in the face of all the things that would turn us away from that loving. Why do I say loving? Because loving is when we put who we are into action, into expression. So if our nature is love, then we do loving. We have then taken the truth of ourselves and brought it into this level.